Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. In today's video I would be discussing my experience at Eightfold.ai for software engineering role. So let's get started. This video as always is segregated into following sections. We'll be covering the general information about the company, their product, the teams and the tech stack. And we'll be discussing about the general requirements in terms of GPA preparation and offline application procedure. Also I would be covering my interview experience in brief. And as always, I have mentioned the timestamps for each section in the description. So just in case if you want to jump to any particular section, you can use those timestamps. Starting with the general information, I started with my interviews with Eightfold around March 2020, but the timeline for the complete procedure is a bit weird. And I'd like to point out that this timeline is pretty much the main reason I did not go ahead with the offer. So I had two interviews around March 2020, which went really well. I had a last interview scheduled with the manager, but that interview got cancelled twice. Then Eightfold never went ahead with that interview, so I got no decision on my application. Then I was contacted back again in August 2020 to continue the interview process, but by then I had already started working at another company. So, though I completed the process and got an offer again, I didn't really want to switch within 1 month of joining, and I did not go ahead with the offer. But that being said, I was really seriously considering Eightfold in March, and then the timeline was really unfavorable, so I did not actually go ahead with the offer. Now, a lot of you would be wondering what exactly does Eightfold do? So Eightfold builds an end-to-end platform that supports the complete employee lifecycle at a company, from hiring to retention to upskilling your employees. And the platform is augmented with artificial intelligence. Most of the operations that are happening on the platform are being done by artificial intelligence. Also, they have multiple different products that handle different parts in an employee's lifecycle at a company, and their customers are basically corporations and companies, which includes a lot of famous multinational companies as well. And I heard a lot about uh, their tie-ups with the US government and something during the COVID times. So they were working on some project for them, and I'm not really sure about the specific details, but I think I read some posts on LinkedIn. But the most impressive thing about Eightfold, according to me, is the founders of the company. So if you have not heard about the CEO, CTOs, or founders, you should definitely go online and read about them. So that is really great. Now, Eightfold has multiple different teams like web development teams and machine learning, artificial intelligence teams, etc. I interviewed and got selected for the web development team, so basically working on the front end and back end part. But I was specifically interested in ML team, and I think I conveyed this to my recruiter as well. But I think that ML team is very compact and they do not really hire BTech freshers. I'm not sure how to get in artificial intelligence or machine learning team, but then I also did not explore much at that time, so I'm not really sure. And being a startup, they usually work on the latest tech stack and they regularly update their tech stack to make their infrastructure more robust and efficient. So you can expect a fairly good number of opportunities to actually learn about different technologies as an engineer. And the learning curve is fairly steep at Eightfold. And the tech stack, if I can remember correctly, included Django and React or Angular. I'm not sure about that as well. So, I mean, as an engineer at Eightfold, be ready to put in long hours of every day and be busy with work, because they are in their growing stage and there is a lot of things that need to be done. So, and there's a lot that needs to be implemented. So, I guess you would have to put in long hours every day. And according to me, this is not a disadvantage, but a really big benefit, because when you're just starting in your career as a software engineer, learning is the most important thing. And the more you work, the more you learn. As simple as that. So I guess that's a really big advantage for a fresher. And from what I have heard, I can say that you also get a lot of ownership at Eightfold. So if you suggest something really good or come up with ideas, you can get heads up from your tech leads and managers and go ahead and implement it. Also, the features and everything that you implement, you get a lot of ownership for it, and that's really cool, I guess. Talking about compensation and benefits, Eightfold offers a really good starting package. And needless to say, they also offer all the benefits that most companies offer, like health benefits, reimbursements, meals, etc. And for me, it was one of the highest paying startups I interviewed with. So I guess that's pretty good. Moving on to the requirements and preparation part. In terms of GPA, I do not think Eightfold has any specific reservations or criteria. Most of the startups are really not concerned about GPA and usually look at your skills and projects. But just to clarify, in case of Eightfold, I'm saying this purely based on my intuition, as my GPA is decent, and since mine was completely off campus, I cannot really say whether they took GPA into consideration while shortlisting. But according to my intuition, GPA should not matter that much. Now, my procedure, as I said, was off campus. So I applied through their careers portal and then the recruiter reached out. I would suggest to keep checking their careers portal for openings, and I know that they regularly update it. But in startups, it is also really beneficial to reach out to recruiters or developers in the company directly. Now, because there might be a chance that there's no opening as such, but the employees find your profile so good that they give you an interview anyways. So try to reach out to employees and recruiters on LinkedIn, and I think that should be beneficial. And as always, being a startup, so while applying in Eightfold, having good skills, experience, and project goes a long way and are really instrumental in proving your mettle there. And yep, sorry, I switched the slide. Now, as I was saying, so uh, like it's good to have experience and projects on your resume. And in terms of preparation, as always, sound knowledge of DSA is good enough. Practice on Lead Code, Interview Bit, or Geeks for Geeks. I mean, not all of them, any one of them is good enough. In the two interviews conducted in March, there were only simple DSA questions and no CS core subject based questions. But in the later interviews, the level of DSA question was somewhat between medium and high, and there were core subject related questions as well, and as well as a small discussion on the project I mentioned in my resume. So it would be advisable to go through core subjects as well before actually appearing for the interview. I guess I've covered everything on this slide. Moving on to a brief description of my interview. This section is pretty confusing here. As I explained earlier, the timeline was a bit messy. I'll try to break it down into three interviews and explain it. So let's go. The first two interviews were about 1 hour long, if I can remember correctly. And in the first interview, I was asked a question on parenthesis completion that had to be solved using recursion. It was more of a corner case handling question. And I was also asked a question on greedy approach. Now the question was simple and I solved it. And then he dived deep into the greedy algorithm and he asked me to explain the solution and greedy algorithm mathematically. So how do you express greedy algorithm mathematically and how that can be applied to this particular question? So we had a discussion on this. The second interview had only one question, which was parenthesis matching, which had to be solved using stack. But it was not the standard one, it was a variation of the standard question. And there were a lot of corner cases that had to be handled. And the code was pretty extensive and confusing. So it was a code extensive question, I would say. Now, when I heard back from them in August, they told me that they have changed their procedure and I would have to reappear. But since my earlier interviews went so well, they gave me some leeway. Uh, I was first given an assignment. The assignment was basically I had to make the auto completion feature using tries in Django. and they gave a complete design doc with the specifics of what needs to be done, what APIs need to be there, and how your uh, what kind of database should be used. And I was given 1 week time, so I had to make all these APIs and push the code to GitHub and then share the repository link with them. They really liked my assignment, so they directly pushed me to last interview. Now I'm not able to completely recall the last interview, but there was a DSA question, some OS questions, and a project related discussion. And the best part about this interview was that this interview didn't end that day. There was one specific DSA question that the interviewer wanted me to give some more thought. So I was corresponding with the interview for almost a week over mail on that question, and I was suggesting new solutions and explaining why I think the solution would work and why it is the correct solution. And he was regularly giving me feedback, and then I was proposing new solutions and everything. Now, once this ended, my recruiter told me that the interviewer was really impressed that I put in so much effort, and he was really impressed. Now, after all these things, I finally got my offer. And I also got a call from their tech leads and upper management to discuss about the offer and clarify all the doubts that I have and everything. But I mean, I was really excited, but the circumstances were such that I couldn't go ahead with the offer. And that pretty much sums up my complete experience with Eightfold.ai. So that's all from my side. And as always, in case I missed something in this video, so you know what you need to do, just write down in the comment section and I will try my best to resolve your queries. Also, all kinds of constructive feedback is welcome. And with this, I'll end my video here. Hope to see you in the next video. Thank you, stay safe, and keep learning.